Peace, HHDG. We are on another episode of HHDG Media, the podcast. And shout out to everyone tuning in through our YouTube channel, as well as our Facebook group, HHDG, which is Hip Hop Discussion Group. Shout out to our company, our fam, HHDG Media Inc., which is myself, Wiki, Rock Vader KB, T. Smith, Demare, and Skelly Top. For those, as you can see, tuning in, the bottom banner has our website, hhdgmedia.com. You can check to see the latest music that we put up there, our merchandise, and future events. But for tonight, we have a talent repping Canada, Vancouver, to be exact. Putting in a lot of work, and his skills in my ears has a mood to it that can be very dark, and then it could be at the same time very emotional. When listening to his production, it brought me back to certain types of No from Cunnilingus, where he had a certain emotional vibe to his music. I'm not sure if some of the people tuning in are familiar with them, but definitely go check them out. But back to our producer for tonight. Continuously been putting in work. He's a crate digger, which I appreciate seeing, and definitely talk about that. DJ, producing, and has worked with, or should I say, he's built up his catalog and continues is working with some really dope MCs. Mickey Fax, Conway, and we're going to get into a lot more of that. But what I feel right now is his magnum opus of an album is Burial Plots and Pyramid Schemes. We're definitely going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the track, the EP, Walk With Me, dropped this year. We talk about his instrumental series and just, let it go from there. So I'd like to introduce repping Vancouver, Imperative. Peace.
What up? Peace, homie.
How you doing?
Good, man. Today was a day, but, alive and blessed. So, can't complain too much. Not too many people will listen anyways, but
Absolutely.
Good.
You wake up, you got to be grateful.
You got to be grateful, man. And even today, I don't want to, so long story short, I was driving into work. So I work at 9 to 5. I would sell this music. We got to hustle on both sides. I was driving to work, and a truck's coming the other way, and a deer ran across, and the truck hit the deer, like right in front of me. And so I pulled over. Guy in the truck, he's okay. His truck's a little damaged, but the deer is half alive on the road. It's suffering. So I literally sat there with the deer, held its head until it passed away. So, that's how I started my day, is literally losing a life in my head. I know it's a deer and a lot of people wouldn't care. I care about people. I care about animals. And, I felt that energy. And then so I went on to work after that. And no one seemed to get it either. They're like, why would you do that? I'm like, it happened right there. But I was sitting in my office, and 3 hours after that, I hear a bang on my office window. And I thought it was an employee just like playing a joke or whatever. And I opened the window, and a bird had hit the window and was now on the ground dead. So now there's this is the second animal in hours. So that was my day.
Wow.
Yeah. So I looked it up. I was like, this has got to be some sort of omen. This has got to be some sort of something, because what are the odds? Some things were saying it's big things, big changes are coming, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know what it means. It was a little weird. And it just made it, it humbles you and lets you appreciate life,
So in that aspect of what the events that occurred today, was there anything different that happened after the deer and the bird, out of the ordinary after that?
Nothing out of the ordinary. I felt in a way my mind was like a little bit more calm, which seems weird. You think you might be like, I don't know if it was like I allowed some stress like to come off my shoulders because of that, because I was like humbled by it, like, you know, I was brought down to earth a little bit by that. But like I can run pretty high stress because I'm trying to do so much with my music. I'm working a 9 to 5. I have shit going all the time. But it was like for a moment I felt like almost a calmness, like, you know, literal weight off my shoulder had come, and it just, so I don't know. That was the only other thing I kind of noticed. But so far I haven't seen those big changes. But hope maybe that's to come.
In due time.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So let's start with the name Imperative. With the apostrophe. Tell us how that came to be.
With the apostrophe that throws everyone off. For me, like ideas, they come and a lot of them they stay with me and they linger until their purpose is served. So Imperative, the name came to me 14 years ago, before I was even doing music. I was in a full circle, you know, and that there's a big reason why that name came into play, full circle, for my EP. 14 years ago, I was living in London, Ontario, which is actually where I'm living now. I moved here almost a year ago. So that was like a big full circle move. But 14 years ago, when I was living, I'd broken up with a girlfriend. I was living with my dad. And I remember being in the apartment, and it was random. I was like looking up the definition for imperative. And then I just like Google searched it. And what came up underneath the proper spelling was how you pronounce it. So it was square bracket, IM apostrophe P backwards E RETIV, and then another square bracket. And in my head, I was like, without even any design elements, I was like, that looks like a logo. Like it looks like it should be something. That's a brand, right? And it just stuck with me. And then when I started making music, so that was probably like what, 2007, 2006, 2007, 2008, somewhere in that realm. And then when I started making music in 2009, 2010, I was like, okay, I'm ready to upload my first beat to SoundCloud. What am I going to call myself? And then that just came, you know, it was like, oh yeah, you got this name Imperative kind of lingering there. So that's where it came from. Just popped it in and it worked out.
There you have it. So you are, and you know, considering that a producer is the epicenter, it works out.
These beats, this production, it's imperative. You got to have it. I get a lot of people and they're like, yo, your name, like your government name is Nate Butcher, Nathan Butcher, but I short form it to Nate Butcher. But they're like, yo, your name's Nate Butcher. Why didn't you use like the, you know, Butcher? And it's like, because everyone did. Everyone, you know, and it's no disrespect to it, but you got B Butcher. You got Benny the Butcher. You know, there's already a bunch of butchers out there. I feel like that would have been the easy way to go. And now it's like I got two aliases. I got Nate Butcher and I got Imperative. So I get to play both.
Definitely. Now, being that you are a producer and we see the records, and I know that you're a digger.
Yeah. Oh man, I should have hid like some of these ones here.
Were your parents? Did your parents have a lot of records growing up? Did they play records?
No, my music influence was slim to nil. My dad could care less about music. Like he'll listen to music, you know what I mean? But like he doesn't care. My mom loves music, but my mom's taste is eclectic. It's all over the place. I think I remember one of the first cassettes I listened to was my dad's, and it was like The Police. You know, my dad listened to very white music. You know what I mean? He's a Bruce Springsteen fan, Rod Stewart, you know, Elton John, that kind of stuff. If he listens to music, but So like we grew up in a place called Angus. I mean, just the name itself tells you how small of a place this was. So like I'll be the first to admit, like you're there like in Angus, Ontario. Like there's nothing there. It's like some of my first music was like Dance Mix '95, Dance Mix because there was nothing else, right? We'd go to the mall, which was like in another town. So my music came from all over. I don't think it was until I started skateboarding that I was really introduced to dope music, so to say. But I mean, even then, like I think having and being a producer, I think you're open to more music taste. And yeah, my parents had no influence on the music though.
All right. So aside from how you got exposed to more music outside of Angus, um, what genre was the first that really caught you?
First genre they caught. Well, you know what? Actually, after the Police, I remember buying the Salt and Pepper cassette. So hip hop was an early
Okay.
influence, but it was Salt and Pepper. You know what I mean? And so that was definitely an early influence. But I mean, then you had like the Big Shiny Tunes and stuff. Like I said, these are small towns in rural Ontario, so it was like rock, some alternative. Then started getting into some more punk music, and then in teenagers is really where hip hop and rap sort of came into the scene more. And that was like skateboard videos. I'll say it to this day, skateboard videos and snowboard videos, because that was my history before music. I was a competitive snowboarder, but I pay a tribute to those for showing me a lot. Like I remember hearing Hieroglyphics, Del the Funky Homo Sapien. You
There you
mentioned
go.
Cunning
Yeah.
Linguists earlier. I definitely listened
Nice.
to them growing up skateboarding. So yeah, there's that a lot of influence because of skate. Big L the Fallback, that had a huge impact. Well, I remember hearing Big L the Fallback. Hey yo, check this out! And I remember hearing that. I was like, you could just tell by Big L's voice, like it was just there's something about it. And I remember going to a friend's house and he had one of those like CD burner stamper things. I remember like, yo, let me burn Big L the big picture and like, printed off the label and stuck it on there. And I remember like having that bootleg Big L CD for a long time.
Skateboarding videos is a great outlet to have your music on. Growing up over here in New York, that was definitely a lot of underground hip hop on the skateboard videos I used to watch.
Yeah. Oh man, I know. I've never been to New York, and I can visualize New York skateboard spots just from the videos. Like the Brooklyn Banks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if Brooklyn Banks is still around. And then like the Zoo York videos and stuff like that, 401
Yep.
like that. I'm overdue for a New York pilgrimage and come and check it out and see all the sites, skateboarding, hip hop, and so on. Like it's definitely on my list of things. Were you a skateboarder then?
A little bit, but I wasn't too vast with the tricks and stuff. A little bit of an ollie,
Yeah.
grinds and hand plants. Nothing too crazy.
Did you hit the Brooklyn Banks?
No.
No. I heard it was pretty dangerous. Like it was dope spot, but I heard it was pretty dangerous at the same time.
Yeah. Washington Square Park was a place that a lot of people went there a few times. But at that time I was more on the bikes.
Okay.
Skateboarders and the BMX bikers and stuff like that, always pretty much in the same areas.
Yeah. The countercultures.
Yeah. Yep. So with production,
Mm-hmm.
was there someone that you saw actually making music and kind of made that spark for you?
It was my younger brother. So I was in Vancouver doing my snowboard thing. I was pushing to be a competitive snowboarder. I was, I was filming video parts, shooting photos for magazines. And then my brother came out and he was going to school. It was audio school in Vancouver called Pavi. And he was going through that, and he started, he had always kind of dabbled. He had some hip hop. He built studios in the basement and stuff like that. And then when he was in Vancouver, going to school for it, I saw him making some beats and stuff like that. I think I remember watching him flip a LaRue sample. It's more of like an indie one that was like a newer stuff. Can't remember the name, but I ended up collapsing my eye socket snowboarding. I hit a jump.
Ooh.
Landed with my knee in my face and shattered my eye socket. So it's why it looks like I have a black eye all the time. So there's a metal plate in there. And that just really changed the trajectory of my life and direction of it. So I was still snowboarding after, but I had to wear an eye patch for a year. And my confidence wasn't there in snowboarding. So snowboarding was my creative outlet, right? We would go out to the city streets, much like skateboarding. We'd find cool spots and we'd shoot photos. This whole creative output and outlet, and I no longer had that. So seeing my brother and what he was doing, and at the time I was listening to. So there is again in full circle is my last video part for snowboarding used the Mickey Fax song. So I was listening to guys like Mickey Fax back then. Yeah, so that's where. So he was my first major feature, and he was the last person. And that's actually, we can get into that a little bit more. But so yeah, from snowboarding to music, I was I made a conscious decision. Is this is what I want to do. This is where I'm going to put my efforts and everything. When I get into something, I'm all in. I got this chain. It literally says all or nothing here. And that's it, right? When I'm into something, it's I'm in it, and that's where I'm at now with music. Is this is my creative outlet, and it's kind of I keep saying it multiple times, but full circle. It's I have a diploma in multimedia design, so I do graphic design, I do videography, I can do all this different media stuff, but I never learned music, and then when I added that element, it was it's almost like in Wu-Tang, it was the last chamber for me. You know what I mean? Is I added that I completed that final chamber. And, so I've got this full circle of skills that I could use in a brand, and I look at music like that as well, because I try and balance the actual creative aspect with the business part. In my early years, it was more just figuring it out, tapping the pads, creating. But there was always this element of from the get-go, what's my name going to be imperative. There was this whole branding aspect, and I could see and understand the branding component of it.
You definitely had the diverse path before you got into production. That's interesting.
I think it's key. I mean, even when you different walks of life, but when you listen to a lot of these artists, is you got to have some sort of past. Just like my injury, right? These scars are what they add character. They build the character to who you're going to be. So it's all those things. I always like to say is all these skills I've learned over time. There's skills that you'll learn at a job that you hate. So I came off the 2 years of COVID, right? I got laid off. I didn't have a job. And then I was living here in London, and I was my money was starting to run a little thin. And I was okay, I need a job. But it wasn't easy. People still weren't hiring fully. It was people working remote. So I had to go get a Band-Aid job at Costco. They literally had me pushing carts, right? And as much as I hate that, I can guarantee you there's still some small skills that I probably took from that are in me that will allow me to be better in the future.
Honestly, that's 100% the truth. You never know certain skills that you're going to pick up that are going to benefit later on. When I was in college, when I came back home to New York, I went to college at University of Miami down in Florida. When I came back home, I did construction work with my uncle. So he did the taping, which is, once the sheetrock is up, You put the tape with the plaster and everything, smooth it out, let it dry, sand it down, make it smooth, put another coat on and everything. So, the walls and the corners and everything look flush as one. That's a skill in itself right there. And, here I am in my 40s and, patching up little things here and there come easy to me now.
That's it. And a lot of people would just walk past it. I mean, there's also a preparation element to that. A blueprint aspect, or there's something to be said about, you have a final product, but you got to get to that final product. And then that's exactly like that, what that skill. Now, you went to University of Miami though, so you coming out doing construction. That's the least of that story, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Not on air.
I went down there for computer engineering.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was one of the main how do you say it? That was one of the schools, like, well-known type of majors to pick. That in their medical school was really, really good back then. But I wasn't medical, I was into the computers and everything.
So you're on your computer hacking shit or what?
I understand it, but I don't mess with that. Yeah, I went in a different lane with the IT, which I'm still in now. I'm doing under 911 communications.
Okay.
So I manage databases, equipment, and stuff like that, RFID identification, and things like that.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Small world. So like outside of this music and what I do is right now I'm working for a magazine called Municipal World, and I do digital marketing for them and digital media production. And I just finished a podcast that's all about 911 and the misuse of 911 calls, and we interviewed this lady from a municipality that is dealing with all that. So it's just funny how all these things they intertwine, right?
Intertwine, yep. Mm-hmm. It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
So with your skills, videographer, graphic design, you essentially are a one-man band. You can do pretty much everything in-house. So when it comes to putting out a project, you can work on the videos, you can handle the presentation, the layout, the design of, for instance, burial plots and pyramid schemes. Mm-hmm. All that stuff, comes second nature to you.
More or less, yeah. I mean, and I knew that was going to be a bit of an advantage for me, in this industry, and I tried to use that as much as I could to my advantage. And I use the things that I can do, and then I got to be smart about some of the other things. So I didn't actually do the cover art for barrel or the 4 barrel plots and pyramid schemes. I hired that out to Jordan Commander. He used to be a manager of air vinyls and that. And that for me was, I mean, I loved his art. I thought it was dope. But it was a bit of a chess move for me in a way. It was like, look, I'm putting together this project that I know in my mind is going to be top tier. Like, it will hold up against a lot of this other stuff. But how am I going to get this across? And I know psychology and digital marketing strategies that people judge a book by a cover. They say not to, but everyone does. So it's like, how can I come up, get something graphically with someone in the industry that people will either recognize or be drawn to right away? Because I actually, if you go on Instagram, it's Nate Butcher Media. I have my whole portfolio. I can do graphic design. I can make dope looking cover art, right? I do like a lot of cover art for a lot of artists, but I knew for that particular album, I needed to outsource. Full Circle, I did my own, but that was before I was really tapping into the market I am now. That was me finalizing my chapter in Vancouver and my time there, hence Full Circle. And so that cover, I worked with a photographer, but I did the end design and product stuff. But with barrel plots and pyramid schemes, I mean, I planned the rollout, I planned the promo videos and the content in that sense, and I can do a lot of that. Or I take the cover art, a lot of the single artwork, it was all done by Jordan Commander as well, and I try and do little movements. So I'd cut up the comic book strips that he did and make it so Let's
Um,
Ride with Danielson and Am early morning. I had like a devil guy driving, so I broke up the steering wheel and it looks like he's driving. It's just a little bit of motion that draws the attention in, right? And but yeah, having the skills in the media and being able to do anything I want really helps cut costs, because I mean then I end up putting costs elsewhere too. It all goes around. But yeah, having those skills definitely helps set me apart and allows me to push forward.
Jordan, when I first discovered him, I believe I discovered him because of his affiliation with Chong Wizard, who's also from Vancouver. And then from there, I found out, his writing skills, the illustration like you were talking about, and in recent years, how well his A&R skills are.
Yeah. Yeah, what's crazy is, I'll tell you this, being in the Vancouver scene has no idea who Jordan, outside of a few, they don't know who Jordan is, and they don't know who Chong Wizard is.
Wow.
The Vancouver scene is a very in a bubble scene. And I mean, I was within that scene and literally physically moving away. It's like I left that biodome, and but I learned about Chong Wizard and I learned about Jordan after I left there. And even Jordan, and we were chatting, and he's like, "Oh yeah, like I'm in Richmond." I'm like, "What?" Like you were literally like, 30 minutes from where I was, sort of thing. And so it's kind of crazy. But Vancouver they're in a different sound. I mean, Ontario is more East Coast, like where I'm in London, we're neighbors to Detroit. I was living in Niagara for a bit, so that's neighbors to Buffalo. And I mean,
Yeah.
New York's not too far either from here. So, I mean, it makes sense about the sound. And then West Coast, East and West have always had their different sounds. And Vancouver definitely has its own unique sound. And it's not, I mean, it's just a different sound. And so when I started making beats, I was listening to guys like Ski Beats, Alchemist, Jay Dilla, Kanye, all very East Coast. So that's where a lot of my beats started. But I found I ran into trouble. Is like a lot of the artists, I did work with one artist, Jay West, and he had similar interests in me, and that's who I came up with. A lot of the other artists in Vancouver, they didn't really want to jump on my beats. They didn't really fuck with my beats. They thought my beats were boring. They thought, so I had to kind of adjust my sound a bit, add some more 808s, make it a little bit more, some trap hats and stuff like that. And I had to adjust, which again, we're talking about learning skills that pay off down the road. If someone asked me if they wanted to pay me $500 to make a trap beat right now, I could make a trap beat right now. You know what I mean? I can dissect beats of like really any genre, and I could figure it out pretty quickly. So, I mean, I do have that skill. I just now am making the same beats I was making back then, but now actually having success with it. But this is the type of beats, and this is the sound that I always really wanted to work on, and this is what I always wanted to do. If you actually sold a beat, I actually have a beat coming out on a project with Joe Sig coming up, which is a beat that I made probably in 2013. And it's finally just getting used now. And at the time, I know no one had used this sample before. No one, so I'm putting this out there right now. I know at the time no one had used this sample before, because I did a chopped version and a looped version. And on the sample, because I was trying to get my name out there, I posted a link to the beat in the YouTube comments, and then someone came to the SoundCloud link, and they're like, "Yo, I just found this on my uncle's song," and he's like, "This is dope." He's like, "I'm glad you flipped it. Like this is dope," and that was like a really cool thing. But I think it was like maybe a year or two ago, but someone in the current scene, they finally put it out, so they got it out there before me. Which always sucks. It's always a race to get we're all digging in the same crates, and there's always a race to try and get that, because you want to be known for that sample, right? Like, because whoever gets out first and if it does well, they're like known for that sample, right? And
Yeah.
But I'm glad that this track's finally coming out and the sample's finally kind of seeing the light of day. So, yeah.
But still the thing with the sample is it could be the same sample, but it's your skills in how you manipulate it.
100%. I mean, 100% on that. There's some samples that no matter what you do, no matter how you flip it, will just always
That first
they have elements in it that it doesn't matter how you flip it. It's always, you're just gonna know that it was that, and it's just your mind's gonna go back to that. Yeah. I'm trying. There's one I'm thinking of in my head, but because we're talking about other stuff, I can't think about it right now. But it's a Cameron song. But I can hear the sample in my head, and then I know it was flipped a couple different times on different things. And the second I hear that sample flip, no matter what, just because the elements, the pitch of the vocals, it doesn't matter what you do. It's just always gonna make you think of that other one.
Right. Now, you just recently mentioned how a lot of people weren't messing with your production because of the particular type of sound that you had. And now with your skills, you can easily go the route that they were looking for. A lot of people try, as a producer, would try and force that, to cater to, maybe it could be a famous, MC. But listening to you and knowing your music, it's never that case. And the more I've heard, with Walk With Me to the album, The Precedent, you hear the various sounds that you come with.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't sound, in any way forced. It's more of how how would I say it? It's the emotion that you put into it and how it comes out.
So one thing, like when I'm listening to samples, and that's like, I think right now the biggest part of my skill is the amount of time I put into listening for samples. Like I made a post on Facebook that I'm in a bit of a sample slump at the moment. Like I think that I just went through a period where I had to finish a ton of beats for like 5 different projects. And I think I had deadlines, and I was going crazy, and I was finishing all these joints, and then it was like, it feels like my energy's spent at the moment. And it's like, I hear samples and I know it could be a beat, but part of it, I guess, in my style that I've developed now is like, sure, I can hear something and I know I can make a beat, but it's not the beat I want to make. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And one of the things I always do is like, I let the sample dictate the sound. I am not like musically gifted, but I have an ear and I'm a problem solver. And in the problem solving, music is math, right? And so when I'm listening to certain samples, like my brain works like a database, and in studying Kanye and studying Dilla and them and breaking down the samples of how they made their tracks and stuff and how they chopped it, is when I'm listening to samples now, it through the math and the music theory, I can hear one sample it's a completely different sample, but there's similar elements. So I'll be like, oh, yo, this kind of sounds like that sample, and that's how they flipped it. So I can use that as a starting point, and then I can use that, and I can start hearing a full beat in my head, and that's how it kind of works for me. And I really need to hear when I hear samples, like, and if I really want to work on it, it's like I got to hear the full beat in my head, like before it's even done. So when I'm actually when I go to make the beat, it doesn't usually take me that long because I can already hear the full thing. Sometimes there's like some pieces I need to work out and some kinks, but a lot of times like, oh, okay, I just did, and it's done. It's already done in my head. And that's the problem solving aspect. And then from there is like, I have a big vault of beats. And when I send to artists, I'll usually have some where I'm like, yo, I think you'll sound great on this. Like there's definitely some, it's like when I'm making it, oh, I can hear this person or I can hear this person. But if I'm working with an artist, I usually send them probably more beats than they need. And I let them choose, because the beat making is my part, but then there's a part of them that whatever they're feeling, right? At that time, whatever they're feeling, like writing or whatever, they're going to feel that, and their creative aspects are going to come out in that. Then once they pick the ones that they're feeling, then I come in with my producer like, okay, you should do this, or let's try doing this. Let's add a hook here. Let's add cuts there. But I like to leave, like, they're an artist as well, and I like giving them some artistic freedom of choosing what they want to sound on. And that's
Yeah.
how I find that I'm able to get the best product, is I'm not trying to pigeonhole them into what I think they should be on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the artist on The Precedent, how do you pronounce the name? I think I pronounced it wrong.
Shayna Ashley.
It is Shayna. Okay. All right.
She's one of the top female battle rappers.
Battle rappers, yeah. That's why I thought it was her at first, and then when I listened to her, I said she does sound familiar.
I think a lot of people get messed up right now because China Streets. So they're kind of coming up around the same time. So you got China and then China. So it's just like, yeah.
So how did you link up with her? Because that was one of your early projects.
Yeah, that one dropped right after Burial Plots. That came through G4 Jag kind of connecting us. So Lord Mob, Fly Fam, but G4 Jag connected Shayna and I, and we started working. We had a couple of things, and then I just kind of kept like pushing Shayna, like, yo, where are you at? What you got? And then that's another one of the skills I got from jobs is I have management skills, right? So I'm able to be like, I have to warn people. I'm like, yo, if you're working with me, you're gonna get weekly messages like, yo, where's this at? How you doing? You know, and I feel like I do a good job of like managing people and like, you know, boosting their self-esteem and their confidence in what they're doing and ensuring that they're excited about it, right? And Shayna, I think, said it in an interview, or the track Gold Blooded with Mickey Fax on it. She didn't even want to rap on that beat. And I was like, yo, I'm telling you, rap on this beat. And so maybe I did pigeonhole someone onto one, but I was like, yo, I'm telling. And then she's like, yo, thank you for putting me on, like pushing me. And I sent her a couple examples. I was like, yo, if you flow like this, and then once she heard those examples, she's like, oh, now I get it. Now I see what you're trying to do with this track. And then that's how Gold Blooded came.
Okay.
And then in like the small world, she's like, yo, I think I want to get Mickey on this. I'm like, oh, yeah?
She suggested, okay.
Yeah, she's like, Mickey's one of my favorite rappers. I'm like, oh, you don't say. He's one of my favorite rappers. So that we had that connection, too.
Nice. And they're both from the Bronx.
Yes.
So she suggested Mickey Fax, and The Precedent came out in 2022. But you worked with Mickey Fax in 2020 on what was that? Full Circle?
On Full Circle, yeah. Yeah, so I don't know if she had even heard that or knew that. But yeah, and so the original Walk With Me came out in 2021 as well. So Mickey Fax 2020 on Full Circle, and then 2021 for the original Walk With Me.
Yeah.
And then Gold Blooded in 2022 with Shayna. Mickey and I need to do a project. Mickey, if you see this, we got to get a project in.
Definitely. I would definitely want to hear a full project with the two of you. Absolutely.
That would, you know, I mean, he's busy. He's a dean of a school now, which is huge. It's very inspiring seeing what he's doing with that stuff. But that would be definitely, I think that would be, I mean, that would be an even bigger full circle if I was able to do a project with Mickey. I think that would be really dope as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I know. So with the verse he sent me for Full Circle, I remember I hit him up and I explained, like, yo, you were my first major feature, and you were the last song that I used in my last snowboard video. And he was pretty taken aback by that. And so rather than sending me a 16, he actually sent me a 32. So shout out to Mickey Fax. You know, I knew song lyrics, I knew things, you know, like not being a stan, but you know, like I followed his career. So like I was able to be like dropping like almost like wordplay with his song titles in our conversations just to kind of catch his attention.
Nice.
Yeah.
So where can we find the original Walk With Me?
It's in the EP. It's in the EP. So in my digital marketing strategy, everything I do is like chess moves, you know. So the original song dropped in 2021 and it did well. But I still had this verse from Ren Thomas that didn't get used on the first one. So 2022, I'm like, I got this Ren Thomas verse sitting there. It's either I'm gonna have to make a beat around it, or it's already on this track. Why don't I just add it and re-release it, and then like with the streaming algorithms, right? Package it up, put the original song, instrumental, clean version, extended version, extended instrumental, and then package it like that, and just give people this whole new. Because from the time I released that to the time now, is my fan base. I hate using the word fan, but you know, support base, whatever you want to call it, listeners, have grown. So while that song is old to me, still new to anyone that's heard it, like it's hearing it for the first time. And what's crazy is when I did my send out to blogs and radios, some people even just missed the extended version and just started playing the original version, which I'm not mad at, right? Like whatever way they're gonna Shazam it or whatever, and people are gonna end up on the full thing and they're gonna find it one way or another. So it was just a strategy for me to breathe new life into an old song that was dope. Just because it's old doesn't mean it's not dope. And there's a marketing tip I saw out there from one of those like music gurus or whatever, and it says, stop trying to like put out new music thinking that that's what's gonna, you know, that you just gotta keep putting out new music and eventually you're gonna make it. It's if you've made dope songs, rather than spending the money on all this new music, is figure out how you can monetize and make the most out of this music you've already released, right? That's smart, yeah. That's why I've got the animated video coming out for Under the Scope next week. And, you know, that song dropped almost a year and a half ago, but I didn't have the budget to do the animated video back then. So I might even drop like a dubstep remix for 2 years from now, just to get it going on the algorithm streams again. You know what I mean? Like, you just got to find new ways of putting these songs out. And I made a post on Facebook the other day. It's too many independent artists I see try and move like labels, because they see labels and labels are like, okay, well, we release an album and then we release 3 singles, right? So an artist's like, okay, well, I got to release 3 singles and then I got to release an album. We're in this independent era and we're in this digital era with streaming, and it doesn't work like that. Like as an independent artist, right? Like that Walk With Me song, who's to say I don't go next week and add another artist on there? Take Mickey off and add another artist. Take Ren off and add, you know what I mean? I could have 15 different versions of the song, but maybe one of those out of those 15 songs, maybe one of them hits and goes big and everyone resonates with that one.
There you go.
Right? So absolutely. I think independent artists need to stop watching labels and label artists and trying to like mimic what they're doing in terms of marketing and release strategy and that. And like there are no rules, like, you know, there is and there isn't, right? Like do whatever.
Yeah. It's like you said, it's an old song, but you could have a new fan tomorrow.
100%. And that one listener, maybe they tell 5 people. And those 5, you know, so you never know where it starts. So it's, and, you know, even I'm trying to wrap my head around, I'm not saying I know everything, so I'm still trying to wrap my head around some of this knowledge too. We are bound by some of these streaming algorithms and stuff like that. Like I can only release songs pretty much every 2 weeks. I could be releasing so much more music weekly if I wanted to, but because of these streaming algorithms and the way it works is like I'm bound by this 2-week thing. I could put out a song every week, but it just wouldn't have the reach or engagement that I would like for it to be really truly successful. So
you definitely have the business mind for it. And another thing is that song might end up on, say, a commercial. It could be playing in the background of a TV show, a movie. And all it takes, you know, with people's phones, with technology, for them to go rewind that, Shazam it, you know, SoundHound, whatever app you use to go and pick up that song, and then go from there.
It's one stat that I look at. It doesn't mean a lot, but at the same time, I find it very cool. Is my Shazam, so on Apple's Artist app, you can see how many times a song has been Shazammed.
Oh, okay.
I find it's just like, because a Shazam means someone heard it and they liked it enough that they're curious to know what it was, and they hit that Shazam button. It doesn't even matter to me. Like, they might just go into the Shazam graveyard, but just the thought that it triggered them enough, like it sparked them enough that they wanted to at least know what it was, right? Who is this, right? I think it's a really cool stat. And then kind of on that, I haven't talked about this, so you like some friends know this and family know this. So Walk With Me actually got used in a film. Got used in a film called Noemi D. Wee, which premiered at a Montreal Film Festival last year. So it was really dope. I wasn't able to see it until I think it was last winter. It finally came out. I think it's on. I think you can get it on Hulu or Roku or something. I think it's on some of the different streaming things now. But I was like, yo, I finally get to see my song in a movie. This is dope. And so I get it. I rent it on, and then so I'm scrubbing through it, and I'm like, man, I didn't hear it. Like, where was it? And I had to go back to the emails, and I read the synopsis. I was like, oh. So I found it. It was used in a rape scene, and it's in the background of a party, and I'm like, fuck, like, it's dope. The song, it's a really dope movie. It's in the it's really dark, but like it's a powerful. But it was just like, I was like, man, I can't share this. You know what I mean? I was like, but it's dope that they used my song in the background. I think I know why they used it, because the message and the lyrics at the time, I think it's the girl, and she's like thinking about her life outside. And so there is a bit of a correlation there that they played with the lyrics, but it's very faint that I don't know that anyone could Shazam it, but I'm proud that my song was used in a movie. It sucks that it's the type of scene it is. But I just got to move forward and try and get some more stuff in the place that's there.
Yeah, when we're done with the interview, send me the name of the movie.
I will
check it out.
Yeah, it's kind of in the realm of Requiem for a Dream. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Yeah, it's that kind of like, like where there's scenes where you're like, like.
Let's talk about your instrumental series.
Instrumental issues. So the idea was basically, again, the release of these started as a marketing strategy. As producers, we are very blessed in the fact that every song we do is essentially two songs. It's an instrumental, and then you have the song. Fortunately for rappers, I mean, they can, which is probably not going to do very well, but they can't release the song and then the acapella. I mean, they could, right? But like, it just doesn't really help them, right? Like, no one's really going on Spotify acapella playlists and just listening to like raw, poetry like that. Maybe they are, I don't know. But as a producer, any track I do, right? If let's say it's me and a rapper, right? That song is 50-50. My composition is 50%. Their lyrics is 50%. That makes the whole of 100. And then if I take my instrumental away, I now have that instrumental I have 100% on. So for me, is releasing every single song is great, but I have all these instrumentals that I can be making 100% of my own money on. And let's say I have a release now, and then I don't have another release until October. Well, I have like tons of instrumentals that I can put in those 2-week rotation and keep the algorithms happy that I got songs coming out. So it satisfies the algorithms in terms of releases. And then it also just allows me to have music out there that I can collect 100% of the royalties on because I made that composition. So it was really me finding a creative and marketable way of releasing those. So it started with art from Huey P. Being a fan of hip hop, you're looking at Liquid Swords and things like that, and having the comic book art, right? Like hip hop and comics have this like long lasting relationship. And I always knew I grew up drawing comic books as well. That was one of my, as a kid, I remember like building forts in the closet and drawing comic books. That's some of my earliest creativity. So it was like, I want to be a comic character. And so this was a perfect way of doing that. And now it's turning into its own thing, right? Like the goal is, I think I have 4 coming up, and then 5 is going to be kind of a big one. And then when I get to 10, I want to do a best of. So I all of those, like the best, and on that one I'll do like on vinyl. I'll kind of like work on figure out what the best 12 instrumentals of however long it's been, and do that. And I want to do an actual comic book that comes with it, maybe like a little action figure as well, and do the full branding on that, because Larry June even says it in his new Alchemist album. He's like, merch. Like, I forget what the exact line is, but he's like, yo, you gotta have the merch.
You gotta have it, yeah.
This music, the music part is the portion. The music part is the commercial. And then it's the brand you build around that. That's actually how you'll survive. So you can make dope beats, you can make dope songs, but if you don't have the brand behind that, in this day and age, unfortunately, you likely won't survive.
It's very true. Mm-hmm. And one thing that normally sticks with people when it comes to a brand is a logo.
Mm-hmm.
Now with you, I would say your name with that apostrophe stands out. So I see what you've been doing with your merch.
Yeah, what's funny is I hired a business, and I don't know if you'll see it, but my business development manager, he's not like on retainer or anything like that, but like I hired him and he helped me with my branding stuff. Mm-hmm. And one of the things, he didn't like my logo. He thought I needed something different. But sometimes as an artist, we got to trust ourselves. And a big reason why I wanted to go simple is if you look at Supreme is just a font.
Yeah.
Nike is more or less a font. Nike has the swoosh. So like there's 2 sides of that. But I wanted something that, because if I'm DJing, right? If I'm DJing for an artist, I'm likely going to have my laptop screen up and it's going to have a big sticker. And so I wanted something that people could read. If I have some like crazy graffiti, no one's going to be able to read that. So people look at their laptop screen and like, sorry, who is that? Some of the first T-shirts I did imperative kind of across the bottom back. And the reason why is a lot of the hoodies they were coming up and the T-shirts were hanging low. So the imperative would hang low under the hoodie. So again, if you're in a show and you're looking down and then you see the name across, the back, the name's not getting covered up by the hoodie. So that was, keep it. I've been saying this a lot lately, but the acronym, keep it simple, stupid. It really plays into like my beats, the way I make my beats these days. But branding, don't try and overcomplicate. Don't try and overthink. Just, yeah.
Shout out to Holly Rose Art. Right on point with that.
She's out in Australia. We got. I'm looking over I'm trying to stay focused here. I got the YouTube over here.
Oh, okay.
Comments. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Holly's actually out in Australia.
Yeah.
Nur Solomon, he's in Kazakhstan. And what's dope about these people? Like this is why I hate using the word fan, because I really hate using the word. These are people that support me, and I have conversations with these people. We've never met in person, and it's just really dope to me that I can have conversations with people. There's people listening to my music in Kazakhstan. There's people listening to my music in Australia, and I can literally talk to these people like friends. And there's some of them, like, I literally ask them questions about some of my branding and stuff too. And I'll be like, yo, what do you think of this vinyl color? What do you think of this?
Opinions, yeah.
And bring them into it, because they're the people supporting it. And, and they believe in what I'm doing. And I know that there's artists that say I support, and I try and reach out to them, and they just like, it's just like, nah, like, like I'm here and you're here. Right. But when you build a relationship with these people, like, I like bringing them along my journey. Like, I wouldn't be where I am, and not that I'm anywhere massive, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just, I'm getting there, but I'm getting there because of these people and their support and their belief in me. It keeps me going. Like, I'll wake up to a message being like, yo, like this song, or, I really love this, keep going. And that's like, it'll be on my lowest days where I'm like, fuck this shit, I'm done. Like, what more can I do? And then all of a sudden I'll get a message from someone and they're like, yo, keep going. Like, you really inspire me. And it's like, okay, that's why I'm doing this, So
Keep that inspiration going.
yeah.
And you are wearing your merch, which is a big issue that I have at times, where there's artists out there that say, buy my merch, and you never see them with it on.
This is my biggest business card. Like, I'll be out
Yep.
at shows. I'll be at, especially the hat. I mean, I used to have long hair. My snowboard days, I had the hair down to here. I was, my snowboard ROM. I hit the age of 30 and I can't grow hair anymore. So, I mean, I'm not like fully bald, but like, so that hat kind of comes in. But always having the logo on the head, right? You're talking to someone like, yo, who are you? And I'm like, Imperative. And then they like look up at that. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always there. And even why am I going to go? My style's changed a lot over the years. Like, I used to be by like huge brands, huge closet of all these clothes, and it's just, I guess, a maturity thing. But it was like, why am I going to go spend money on all of these brands? It's not coming back to me. Like, if I really believe in what I'm doing, which I do, buy more hoodies, buy more t-shirts, buy more hats, buy more, and make the stuff you want to wear, right?
Right.
And I'm all for that. And yeah, so that's where my money goes.
It's the best advertisements.
My next move, maybe I shouldn't say, you know what, fuck it. I like giving out gems to people, but my next move is this. I still have merch sitting on the shelf. And as any business, having inventory, that's your worst enemy. Having sitting inventory is like your worst enemy, because that's money sitting. Like, and my merch shelf, it's like a little store, and it's next to my bed. So I can wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, look at all that money. But I'm gonna move into like a heat press realm. And I've been watching this guy on Instagram. Like, there's so much information out there these days. It's if you're not learning how to progress or do better, like I was doing the champion t-shirts. I was trying to, follow Griselda's lead and build this higher brand. But I think these days shipping's so high that people are like, okay, like, this is dope. By the time I add shipping, this is a $90 t-shirt. Like, as much as I like it, I can't really support. So I'm gonna go back a few steps here. I'm gonna grab a heat press, and then having the heat press, what that's gonna allow me to do is, like, if you think about how many songs I've released, Barrel Plots and Pyramid Schemes, Full Circle, all the single art on Barrel Plots and Pyramid Schemes, The Precedent, any of those album covers, I can turn into art on a t-shirt. So now, rather than buying t-shirts that already have the print, I just have blank white t-shirts on the go, and someone's like, I want this one. I just go into my kitchen, done, ship it out. And then now all I have to hold is t-shirts, but I can put anything on those t-shirts. So this just, business mindset again, trying to figure out how can I make the most of what I have and turn it around. It's not about making money for me. It's being about sustainable. And really, I just want to be able to survive and be able to create every single day of my life. That's really where I want to get to.
And it comes back to being in-house. And with that being said, it's pretty much a print or press to order, so you don't have to continuously have them manufactured and then have them waiting to be ordered and sent out. You just make it when it's ordered, and that's it.
Exactly. So that's the idea there. It will be like my own in-house drop ships. So yeah, gotta move smarter, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, there it is. And since we talking about merch, Full Circle, you drop physicals, Barrel Plots, and pyramid schemes. Sorry, and also you had the 7-inch vinyl for Under the Scope.
I got you were asking about an order. I got your order here.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Merch has been a big thing and trying to figure that out. I mean, I want to do more. It's just, it's just not easy as an artist, right? Like, I don't think a lot of people realize how much goes into this. Like, and that's why I try and do so much in-house, but you got to pay for the mix. You got to pay for the master. Sometimes you got to pay for a feature. And I've talked about this before so this is a business, right? And Mickey Fax, he's trying to live off hip hop and rap. And so I can support that. So when Mickey's like, yo, I need this much for a verse, I can respect that. if you're and if, I know it's said not to compare labels, but like a label, let's say, you know, label A needs a feature from artist on label B. Well, they have to pay for that feature. So there's that. So you got to pay for a feature, mix, master, art. You got to pay for. You got to upload your music on DistroKid and TuneCore. Then the marketing, like if you need Facebook ads and all that stuff, which these days you do, advertising and marketing is big, way bigger than trying to have like a $10,000, $15,000 music video. Take that money and make $1,000 music video and put the rest of that money into advertising. But yeah, I wish people knew and understood more. But like, I wish I could do merch for everything. Like my engineer Jamie, out in North Vancouver, he's like, he sees some of the stuff I do, and he's like, man, could you imagine if someone just gave you the money to do everything that you wanted to do? He's like, you tell me these ideas, and he's like, if you were able to do all these things, like people would just be astonished. Like, I still have an idea for Full Circle, the 7-inch, or sorry, Full Circle, sorry, for Under the Scope, the 7-inch, a re-release of this vinyl. It's sitting in the head. I just got to get the right. It's got to be right time and right money source. But it will basically, it's going to incorporate an NFT and vinyl.
You see.
So that will come, but we'll see where NFTs are at that time, because they're kind of up and down. But I think NFTs in their limited field, I think they could tie into vinyl really, really well. So like I have this Vince Carter basketball, and it's got like the card of authenticity, right? And it lets me know that that's real. And NFT is basically a digital slip of authenticity. And then you can trace it. If someone decides to sell that vinyl to someone else, it traces that, and it knows who the past owner was, the future, and I can still make a cut of that too. Like if they're upselling it, like right now, these vinyl are, so let's say the most expensive one was $25 Canadian. They have these going for $150 on eBay. I don't see any extra of that money. Just the resellers see that.
Yeah.
But if I do it as an NFT, I can track and say that if you resell it, I take 5% commission. So every time that gets resold, it'd be an extra, you know what I mean? A small amount, right? Which when we're talking about copyrights and stuff like that, you know, should happen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the next thing is Imperatives from Vancouver. You work with, as you mentioned, Ren Thomas, Mickey Fax. I mentioned Conway before.
I haven't worked with Conway. It was Benny the Butcher. Benny the Butcher. No,
oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry.
Trying. I had a photo with him. I had a photo with him, so maybe. And I looted. I was trying to get him to I was trying to lure him in. I'm like, yo, what would tag him? What would a Conway Imperative song sound like? So, haven't worked with Conway, but it's on my bucket list.
My fault. One of my favorites, Ason Eastwood.
We have a project coming soon.
Oh.
We do have a project. So we're slowly starting to talk about that. I know a lot of people are going to be very excited about this. I'm excited about this. He's excited about it. The first track is getting mixed and mastered as we speak. And it's right now, I think we're at 12 to 14 tracks. It's a full project. We're waiting on features coming in like this. We have a title. I'm not going to drop the title yet. I think I'm going to leave that to Ace. But yeah, we got a project together, and this shit's dope. I'm excited. It's hard having. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, you just saying that you got a project with Ason Eastwood is enough for me to be hyped.
It's hard having, you know, patience is a virtue. Like I want to say so much more about it right now, but I got to keep it on lock for now.
And speaking of Ason, you know, other fellow Toronto artists, Falcon Outlaw, we work with, Danielson.
Yeah.
You know, amazing. You know, how did you work with some of these talented artists from Canada?
How did I start working with them? Or
I'm saying, how did you end up starting to work with these talented artists from Canada?
So when I came back from Vancouver to Ontario, it was like peak COVID. Well, it was like 5 months good, and then all of a sudden it was peak COVID. So it was like, great, I just moved back here. I don't know anyone, and it's COVID. So I use the internet as my tool.
Mm-hmm.
One of my biggest things is like the internet's great to like network and work with a lot of people in different places. But like you got to kind of like work within your home as well. You know, I can work with people down in Buffalo all I want, but like when it's time to shoot a music video, well, that means I either got to go to Buffalo or they got to come here. You know, not always the easiest. So I started really figuring out who was who in Toronto, and in that time, it's become a bit of a community, and I feel blessed that I've been able to infiltrate. Infiltrate sounds like a negative way of saying it. I've been able to become a part of this community. You know, you can see from some of the music videos, Irish Moss with Shea Uno, Falcon Outlaw, and Ace on Eastwood, produced by Bandolero. You know, they invited me down to be in that video. And if you watch that video and you really look at who's in that video, like you'll see a lot of Toronto talent, and it's really dope. And we're all sitting there talking with each other, and it's really dope to see and be like, yo, there's a lot of talent right here, right now. Ace and I, we've had many conversations about this as well with, you know, future stuff that we want to do as well. But yeah, Toronto's got a lot of dope people, and being a part of that community and seeing where it's going to go, I think it's just starting. I did also the producers, right? Like Toronto's got Canada, but Future Wave. I've met Future Wave once briefly. Finn, who's very dope.
Yes, the whole Gold Era crew, yeah.
Yeah, Bandolero out of No Face crew, New Villain. But the homie Pretty Ugly and I, who's all Pretty Ugly, is also a producer and a good producer, and he's a rapper as well. But him and I decided to start the Fresh Produce event in Toronto. So that was our way that we were able to get a lot of producers out. And the whole thing was, it wasn't like trying to showcase like who's the dopest. It's just like, just come play beats, you know? And it opened the doors. We had Bozak Morris come through, OG. Him and I chat a lot now. We had Finn come through. We had a lot of dope people come through. So that was another way of just being a part of the community. And I think having the community accept me as, you know, I guess someone who was an outsider, you know, from Vancouver that was previously unknown. And then I'd like to think that I'm pretty accepted within that community now.
Absolutely. Man. So we only just spoke about the artists from Canada, but when you go and, for those tuning in, you listen to Burial Plots and Pyramid Schemes, you had artists like you mentioned, G4 Jag from Lord Mob. I mean, you got others from the whole Griselda Buffalo scene, like El Camino.
Yeah.
Chicago artists, AM Early Morning. I mean,
and, Rush is from out west.
Yeah.
Joe Sig from North Carolina. So a lot of people. I mean, that's the power of the internet, social media. I really use learning and understanding, networking properly. And I mean, I think that's just part of who I am as a person as well. Like even like when I was doing my snowboard thing, right? Back in the day, there was a website. It was like a Facebook for snowboarders called snowboard.com. And I was able to network with all these different snowboarders. I was holding my own, like there was major contests, and I was like doing these like bootleg contests, and then all the major snowboarders would come down to this bootleg thing. I have like, you could win a bottle of it was like a one of those, you know, big whiskey bottles or whatever. It was like, and people, I'd have people coming out there. I think it's just part of who I am, is like, you know, I like connecting people. I like, you know, connecting those dots. And when it really started like honing in on my sound and what I wanted my sound to be, and it was kind of not to get too deep into it, but I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Alchemist, but it's a very much a full circle story. And it was like, I left BC to come to Ontario, which is Ontario is where I was born. So, you know, there's this full circle. And it was like I left to find what I needed, but then I needed to come back to really like have it. And then I've lost my train of thought. They were going too many places. But really, it's just like I needed to leave to come back to be able to find what I really needed to be able to make this work. And what I did was when I got here with COVID, obviously I couldn't go outside and do it, but it was like I found this sound and I used the technology of Instagram to really, if you imagine like an FBI board when they're placing like the top mob bosses and they got the strings down to like who are the underbosses, that was me. I was like, okay, like West Side, Conway, and Gunn are here. Well, like who's under there, and figuring it out and just like start following them and just like liking what they're doing, like and then commenting, just shooting them a message, be like, yo, I really like your sound, buying their vinyl. Like, I have G4 Jags vinyls over there. I have AM Early Mornings vinyls. Before I even had them on songs, like I'm buying their vinyl because like first and foremost, like before a producer, I'm a fan of, like I say, I hate the word music fan, but I'm a fan of this music, right? Like, and I support this music and this culture. And so I try and work with artists that I really fuck with, you know what I mean? And like, yeah, like even with Rick Hyde and El Camino were just down in Toronto. Like, I bought a Rick Hyde t-shirt and I got him on 2 tracks, but I still support, you know what I mean? Like we're all trying to do this. So
definitely you have a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate, having taken the time to speak with you, because everything that you speak of is in a positive energy. A lot of people can, when they talk, there's doubt and there's negativity in in their thoughts when they expressing. But I notice with everything that you talk about is positive.
I appreciate, I appreciate that. I mean, I just want to say I appreciate you having me on your podcast and taking the time to speak to me and giving me a platform to speak and just go off and ramble on these things. But even when you were talking in the intro there, when I'm talking about some of the people that are in the YouTube comments here, and that hearing the words that you just said and what you just said in the intro, that's enough for me to get through as well. Like hearing you say that stuff, it really hits. So thank you. I appreciate it. It really, that's the kind of stuff that makes me want to go and keep going. And it makes me want to connect with you more as well. And what can I do to help you and push this podcast? Because, us artists and producers, we are nothing. It's got to be this. It's got to be this connectedness. It's a two-way street, and we all got to work together to build this and to grow this, right? And I'll speak some positive, cognitive thinking here. But when I reach the levels of Alchemist and DJ Muggs, we'll look back on this interview and this will be like 20 years later, and you'll be doing another Imperative interview, and we'll look back on this one here, and I'll be like, Wiki helped me get here.
Definitely. Man, one thing we haven't spoken about, the equipment that you use in your production.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is the big one right here. Machine MK1. So this is what came out. Again, if we're talking like the Alchemist story, as I'm starting to make beats, I grabbed an MPC 1000. The pads didn't work. I had to sell it because I couldn't get pads at the time. Native Instruments decided to drop the machine literally the same year I started making beats. And so me being from the digital realm, like having an MPC for a brief period of time, which is a little bit more analog, I was like, yo, this is more digital. And I was, and like an MPC, I was like, this is perfect. So I grabbed this. I've been on the MK1 since I started. This is my second one, and I hate to say it, but this one's dead. This one's going to be going to the graveyard. I got a new one that will be coming next week. Same thing, MK1. That's my main tool. I got a MIDI keyboard from Native Instruments as well. I do have, see it. Oh, which way? under the Kanye doll there. That's an MPC 2000 XL. I don't use it as much, I'll admit. I just had to have it. And one of my goals is when I get some more time, which is kind of a rhetorical question because I don't know when I'll get the time. But what I want to do is I would love to take basically the entire project would be, I keep pointing the wrong way. It'll be all from vinyl off these shelves and then just on the MPC. So basically the entire album would be created on that station over there. So I got two Tech 12. But that is a goal of mine, is to really sort of take it back to that analog sound and do that. But I don't know when I'll find time. The workflow I have on the machine and MK1, it's just like in this day and age with the way things are going is like I said earlier, I was working on 5 different albums. Well, like I got to get 5, what is that? Like at least 7 songs. That's 35 beats right there, right? If I'm trying to, I hate to say it, but going through vinyl isn't very time efficient. One in going to buy vinyl, one in searching through it, one in recording it. And as much as I love it, I'm not dissing it. I'm not like, I love it. It's such a different feel holding the vinyl, putting it on the record player and putting the needle down and finding those spots. There's something that, can't, and I'll always do it. It's just finding the time. But when I'm in crunch time and I need to get beats done, and like the workflow that I have with this machine in the more digital realm, I can just pump out more beats and get more of a product done.
All right. Nothing wrong with that. Thing is, it all comes down to the talent, not the equipment.
That's it. I mean, you look at writers, someone could have a typewriter versus a computer. And it comes, they might write something just as good, if not better, or just on pen and paper. You know what I mean? So
that's all it takes.
Is that a Lupin vinyl in your back there, the yellow?
Oh no, that's Fist of the North Star.
Oh, okay, I kind of look like the Japanese anime Lupin.
It's actually, I'm not sure if you know the artist, Napoleon the Legend.
Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big anime fan. So right now on my wall, I have all of his anime themed albums.
Oh, okay.
So that's Saint Seiya up there, One Piece over there, and Demon Slayer over here.
So I think, I don't know if he's still in the chat, Gav, that's his username on the YouTube, but he's a hip hop producer as well. He does a really dope, like soulful beats. That's really his bread and butter. Much love, homie. But Gav, back in the day, before he was making beats, his Instagram was "This is Hip Hop" with an extra P, so HOPP. That's his producer name now. But before he was making beats and producer, he was doing like a showcase page essentially. And that's how we first met. Was he showcased? And I think it all comes back around. "Walk With Me," I think was the first song he put on there. I could be actually no. I think might have been a Blockboard song. That doesn't matter. But he put me on to the Napoleon the Legend. He was trying to get me to work with him, and unfortunately, it didn't work out. But I think that's how that, again, small world.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I do see Gavin in the comments. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if he's still around, but we've had people come and go. Thank you again, everyone that's tuned in.
Definitely. I appreciate, everyone that tuning in. And when you do tune in, I do like to have you engage with our guests. So definitely, that's why I sometimes put up some of the comments.
Oh, okay. I was kind of seeing that.
Cool. We have a question from Holly Rose Art. She said, you mentioned Liquid Swords before. What are some other albums or projects that have been big influences or inspirations?
Projects. So it's a little bit more of the newer stuff. I mean, Wu-Tang's been I think I'm only took Wu-Tang for granted. And in that is like, I think it was just they were always there and just always dope. And I'm only realizing now more and more how much influence they actually had on me and how really fucking dope Wu-Tang is on a whole. And like I've actually found myself even in like recent weeks and months listening to more and more of like the older stuff. But the big I mentioned already, Big L, The Big Picture, that album had a big part. Recent stuff is Kanye's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I mean, that was in my that came out in my early years of producing. So I think I still have a folder of me trying to recreate all the beats on there so I could have a better understanding of what he was doing. What else we got? Ski Beats, 24-Hour Karate School. Currency, Pilot Talk 1. Smoke Dizza, George Kush the Button. I could go on. I could. And the older stuff too is like it was harder with albums because of where I was. Like I lived in. If I said all these names of these cities I lived in, it'd mean nothing. Like I said, Angus already, right? And I lived in a place called Barron and Whitby, so music wasn't accessible. It wasn't like I lived directly in Toronto. But then it was like the realm of Napster. And so like I would find some stuff on Napster. And I'd find like small songs from CNN, Cormega, and like, it was kind of a hodgepodge of a lot of different stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Deltron 3030, that album. That album's a masterpiece to me. What else we got? Yeah, it's hard to think of. It's really hard to think of.
Is there anyone that you reached out to work with that just didn't work out yet? I know you mentioned Napoleon the Legend. Is there anybody else?
There's definitely a few. I think one of the hardest things that's translating right now is people in Canada, people in BC, they know what I've done and accomplished, so to say. But like to a lot of these people in New York and that, they may still just be hearing about me, but because I'm not there in the scene, shaking hands at the shows, they don't necessarily know who I am. They don't know some of the milestones that I've hit, and so I think sometimes people are dismissive. And I try and take that into account on my own side because I'll have artists hitting me up. And I know sometimes it's easy because like you have set in your mind of who you want to work with and you have random people that are hitting you up and you're like, no, I'm trying to work with them. But I think sometimes you got to have an open mind about these people because I think you never know who the next West Side Gun was going to be. You never know who the next Benny the Butcher is going to be, right? Someone on Barrel Plots and Pyramid Schemes that's, not those guys or that, like, they very well could. And I've made this, I've told the people that there's some paid features on Barrel Plots and there's some people I've collabed with. I gave them beats and it's like, but there's like a mixture on there. But the people that I've built relationships on there, I've said to them is like, I want to do a full project with them as I go. Like I call it the the Marvel metaverse. It's like the imperative metaverse, right? And I want to just building because when you look at guys like Alchemist, Alchemist, he's going to work with Action Bronson. He's going to work with Griselda. He's going to work with Larry June. He's got these guys that are just always there.
Yeah, and
that's kind of what I want to build. And so I mean, there are guys. I don't want to like drop names, but I mean like. I want to work with everyone. Like, there's a lot of politics and stuff in this. Like, I reached out to Rome Streets and even on like, yo, homie, like how much is a feature? And it was just like, just got left on red. You know what I mean? And that's no disrespect to Rome. Rome's doing big things. Obviously, he's signed to, this was before his Griselda signing and that, and if they don't know me, they don't know me. Like, that's the toughest thing is getting people to know. And I think once they know and they hear the sound, that's really what changes. And on my end, on Barrel Plots and Pyramid Schemes, and saying that Joe Sig was a guy I took a chance on. He hit me up off of YouTube. He's like, I think he just messaged me. He's like, yo, I like some of your beats. I was like, cool, let's hear something. And I was like, dope. And we started working together.
Nice.
Flammo, on Cold Streets. He hit me up. He's like, yo, I want to show you what I can do on this track. I was like, send it over. And he went off for 64 bars straight, like literally. And what he sent me, I was like, yo, this is fire. I had to chop those like 64 bars up into 3 different sections. And I'm thankful that it worked. But that was me taking a chance on this guy. And when I heard it, I was like, yo, this is dope. Before we jumped in here, I was on Instagram Live, and the guy jumped in and he was like, yo, like, check out my song. And as anyone, and I'm sure you get this as well in your realm, and when people hit you up, we always want to feel like we're discovering. So when people's like, yo, check this out, you're always like, yeah, okay, you know, like, or just like, nah, right? But he dropped it, he did it in a polite way. I checked it out and it was dope. And I was like, I shot him a message. I was like, yo, what's good, man? So who knows what's going to come from that? But that, you know, sometimes it's just taking a chance and going. I mean, there's a lot of politics and there's a lot of high school cool kid syndrome in this industry, and
far too much. Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta leave your ego at the door and see what can come of it.
Yeah, I'm always more than willing to, you know, press play on something that somebody sends me. You know, during my time when I was in college down in Miami, I actually interned at the radio station. So I listened to all types of music to see what was going to be played or not played, and, you know, give my opinion before, you know, it got that green light.
Yeah. I mean, I love listening to music. Sometimes it's like, it's an approach thing, right? And I don't know if maybe it's the same, but for me, because I get people who just literally send me a link. I open up the message and it's literally just a YouTube link. It's like, what do you want me to do with your YouTube link? Like, if it's like, hey, yo, Imperative, what's good, man? I really respect what you do as a producer. I would love if you just took 2 minutes, checked out my track, give me a little bit of feedback. I'm going to be more inclined to listen to that. But if I open up my DM and it's just a link, it's like one, you didn't take your time to research. One, you're being lazy as fuck and you're just sending me a link. Like, you're not taking the time to understand and learn one proper human interaction, let alone marketing and advertising. So that's a huge thing, is if you want people to listen to your music, be respectful of their time and their space, like their digital space, and you'll get a higher outcome of it.
Yeah, it's still an etiquette to it.
Yeah, that etiquette's a big thing, man.
And Gavin just commented, he's still here. He said the song I showcased and how we met was New York Times.
Yeah, I think I realized that after New York Times with Block Lord. That was the first song that he showcased. And shout out to Gav. This is Hip Hop on Instagram, man. I gotta give my flowers too, where it's due. Gav has come a long way from just showcasing other people's songs to being a dope producer in his own right. You know, it's really cool seeing and having the conversation around the time of New York Times. So now we're on, like, you know, similar radio lists and stuff like that. It's dope seeing homies like that, where it's like, da 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 da, Falcon Outlaw, da 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 da, Imperative, da da A-Sun, this is hip hop. To me, I love seeing that, and it's like dope. This list, like the names on here, like these are homies now. You know what I mean? And I think that's really cool to see. There's enough food to eat, and there's enough food at the table that we can all eat as if we work together and bring each other up, you know.
Now, his name on Instagram is just This Is Hip Hop.
This is Hip Hop with an extra P at the end, so
extra P. Okay.
TISHIPHOPP.
All right. I'm
also more flowers I gotta give. Carvo in the chat here. Carvo is one of my 2 engineers. Carvo did The Precedent with Shayna Ashley.
Shout out to Carvo.
And Carvo also mixed and mastered the upcoming track with Slick Jack, who I know was in the chat earlier. We got a joint dropping this Friday called Every Bullet. It's a really dope track. I think all 3 of us are pretty excited about that drop. That was another one I took a chance on while we're talking about this. Slick Jack came in one of my Instagram lives. He's like, yo, man, I kind of see, like, we know similar people. He's like, I got this acapella of this track, like, and like, Would you want to check it out? And I was like, yeah, all right, send it over, you know? And then the magic words that he said, because I hadn't heard of him at this point, really. Not that means anything, but he's like, yo, the song that I originally wrote this to was the instrumental for Mayhem Loren. It was off Mayhem Loren and Derringer's new album. Mm-hmm. I can't think of the name right now, but it was one of my favorite tracks off that project. And that's what caught my attention. I was like, okay. And then when I heard the lyrics in the acapella, I was like, okay, yeah, I can work with this. And then that track it came together, and really hyped for that drop. So I guess overall, like, I built that beat around an acapella, which doesn't normally happen, right? Usually it's the beat and then the acapella over. Yeah. So hopefully that doesn't change how people hear it, but that one was just built a little bit different.
Nice. If there was another genre to produce, what would that be?
Another genre. If there was so I'll admit I was trying to. I tried learning some dubstep at the time. I guess when dubstep was big, and it wasn't so much the dubs. I say that it's not saying I wanted to. It was. Do you know who Quest is? He was with Logic for a little bit. He was signed to Logic. Now he goes by his real name, which I can't think of. But he had one album, It's Darkest Before the Dawn or something like that. And it used a lot of like samples of like dubstep ambient sort of stuff. And it was a really cool sound to me. Dubstep might not be the right word. Electro, I don't know. Their names are all over the place. Not saying that if that would be another genre I'd produce, but I think where I'm at now and where you might see me go in the future is I'll never leave what I'm doing, but I think I'd like to get into the realm of working with musicians, jazz musicians, rock musicians, to create original compositions and samples that could be used in hip hop. So with the sound that I like, working with these musicians to create songs that producers could then sample later and maybe not have the same sample issues that you are having. So I don't know what that genre is. I think maybe just more musical. And I just watched the recent Wu-Tang episode. And in that episode, Riz is trying to figure out his next sound, and he goes into, working on some stuff with actual instruments. So it's kind of similar to that, I guess.
Man, Imperative, you have a lot going on, a lot upcoming, and I appreciate you taking the time to let us know about it and also give us insight to where you came from and where you are right now.
I mean, I appreciate you having me on this platform and giving me an opportunity. I'm always blessed when people give me an opportunity to talk and give more of who I am. I try and do it in my social media, as best I can, is tell the story. I think that's been one of the things that's really helped me kind of get it growing is allowing people into my story of who I am. So platforms like this and opportunities from people like you really allow me to express, who I am. And I'm more than just, a beat maker and the beats that you hear. You get to hear a little bit behind and where some of those sounds might actually come from.
Absolutely. You could be a influential speaker from what I've heard.
Maybe that's next down the road, but nah.
The floor is yours. Give you shout outs and let everyone know where they can go and support Imperative.
Very well. Thank you to you. Thank you to HHDG Media. Salute to everyone that came out in the chat, watch this. Salute to everybody that's going to watch this after. You can find me on any social media. I am PERETIV. It's pretty much across the board there. Unfortunately, the social media platforms don't like the apostrophe. But next up, we got, so this year already, we're in 2023. So I dropped single Guillotine with Jay Roberts, Ace and Eastwood. Followed that up by Instrumentals issue number 3. So that's out now. Then we followed that up with the Walk With Me EP with the extended version with Ren Thomas. We got the Precedent Instrumentals Burial Plots and Pyramid Schemes Deluxe she's already dropped. The single with Slick Jack is coming out this Friday, Every Bullet. Then we're going to start rolling out a project with Joe Sig from North Carolina. That is 7 tracks. That's called Rome Was Built in a Day. I know Rome Streets just dropped his project called Rome Wasn't Built in a Day, but we literally had this name. There's a long story. Anyways, this came out before, but it was Rome Was Built in a Day. That's coming out. After that, we're going to start dropping a project with Super Caliente. That one's called New Levels, New Devils. Then I got a project with Jay Roberts. That's going to be coming out. Then I think we'll start getting into the project with Ace on Eastwood, which I'm not going to drop the title just yet. And then even more stuff on that's about as far as I can go ahead right now. But lots on the horizon. Shout out to Carvo. Shout out to Jamie Cuse, my 2 engineers. So I'm just a part of my sound. Those 2 really take my sound above and further there, and I really owe a lot to them for my sound. So thank you to everyone. Much love.
Thank you. And before we go, merch is still available. I have the link up, and Imperative, show the merch one more time for the people that are tuning in.
I appreciate that. We got 7 inches, we got cassettes, we got CDs. I feel like I'm in one of those infomercials now. We still got some t-shirts and some hoodies up there. Trying to get some new stuff. Grab all this stuff, and that's going to allow me to get some new stuff. If you want to see new stuff from me, a lot of this stuff too is if you go on my site, this stuff's discounted right now. So you're pretty much getting this stuff at cost. I just want to move this stuff so I can get new stuff. It's not about me making $1. It's maybe making $1 so I can replace this, so I can make new music for y'all. But it's really just about me being able to keep going and keep giving more of my creative self out. So, yeah.
There you go. Imperative, Van City. On behalf of our HHDG media crew, we're going to say peace.
Peace. Much love.